If you're planning an Alaska cruise, there are things nobody tells you before you go, and some of them can completely change your trip or even ruin it. For example, people literally set alarms for 4 a.m. on this cruise, and if you don't know why they do it, you could miss one of the most incredible moments of the entire trip. I'll show you exactly what that means in just a minute. But that's not the only thing. There's also a huge mistake that people make when booking their cruise that can cost them thousands of dollars, a myth about Alaska weather that almost everyone gets completely wrong, and a packing hack that we thought was genius until it failed in the worst possible moment in the middle of a downpour. Yeah, that one didn't go well. After cruising Alaska, we realized really quickly that this is not the Caribbean. And if you treat it the same way, you're going to miss out on some of the best parts of the entire experience. Welcome, fellow cruisers. I'm Chris with Wandering Hewitts, and in this video, I'm going to break down 12 Alaska cruise tips we wish we knew before sailing, so you don't make the same mistakes that we did, because a few of these will completely change how you plan your trip. So let's get into it. First up, Alaska cruises are nothing like Caribbean cruises. First things first, the myth. Alaska cruises are just like Caribbean cruises, but colder. The reality? They are completely different experiences. On a Caribbean cruise, you might sleep in, hang by the pool, grab a cocktail, and stay up late partying. But Alaska cruises have a totally different vibe. You wake up early, really early. Why? Because that's when you start sailing past the glaciers, mountains, and the wildlife. Instead of pool parties, you're standing on the deck with a cup of coffee watching whales surface in the distance. Instead of loud nightlife, most people are in bed by 10 o'clock. And honestly, it's kind of amazing. The entire ship becomes quieter and more relaxed because the destination becomes the entertainment. And the biggest piece of that entertainment? The glaciers. Your glacier days are the biggest moments of any cruise. When your cruise sails into Glacier Bay National Park or Hubbard Glacier, something incredible happens. The entire ship wakes up early and people line the decks. Remember earlier when I mentioned how people get up as early as 4 a.m.? This is why. Glacier viewing days are the absolute highlight of the cruise. The ship slowly sails through massive fjords, and suddenly these towering walls of blue ice appear. Sometimes you'll hear a loud cracking sound and massive pieces of glacier break off and crash into the water. That's called glacier calving, and it's unbelievable to witness. But here's the key tip and the trick to avoid them crowds that I promised you earlier. The cruise line will tell everyone to go to the upper decks for the best views. But what they don't say is that this is where almost every single person on the ship will be. Once the bow opens up, it turns into a crowded, windy, and freezing mosh pit of people, all fighting for a selfie. Here's the secret. Your Glacier Day strategy needs 2 parts. First, get up early. I'm talking 6 a.m. or even earlier. The ship enters the glacier-filled fjords long before it reaches the main attraction. While many are still sleeping or hitting a buffet, you can head to those lounges or even open-side decks and have jaw-dropping scenery of ice-filled water and towering cliffs, almost completely to yourself. Second, this is the real hack. Once the main glacier is in view and the bow becomes a total zoo, go to the opposite end of the ship. Head to the aft-facing bar, a quiet lounge, or even the hot tubs. The ship will rotate 360 degrees to give everyone a view. This means for a solid 30 to 45 minutes, the back of the ship becomes the front. While everyone else is shivering and crammed together on the bow, you can sit in a warm lounge with a coffee, or even better, watch the glacier calving from the glorious warmth of a hot tub with a perfect, unobstructed view. It feels like a total VIP move and costs absolutely nothing. And while you're sitting in that VIP spot looking at the ice, you're probably going to see some incredible things in the water, which brings me to tip number 3. Wildlife spotting is a skill. A lot of people ask, am I actually going to see wildlife, or is it just for the brochures? Before our first cruise, we thought sightings were rare, like maybe you'd see one whale if you were lucky. Nope. We saw whales, bald eagles, mountain goats, sea otters, tons of salmon and seals. In Ketchikan, bald eagles were so common, they literally sit on streetlight posts like pigeons. But here's the secret. While wildlife is everywhere, spotting it takes a little bit of strategy. Don't just sit back and expect the Discovery Channel to play out right in front of you. You have to be an active participant. First, pack a good pair of binoculars. They are an absolute essential because the best wildlife moments happen unexpectedly. You'll be standing on the deck early in the morning and somebody will shout out, "Whales!" and everybody runs to the rail. Having your own binoculars means you don't miss the action while squinting at the horizon. Second, you have to know what to look for. You got to scan the water for flocks of seabirds diving, which means fish, which attracts the whales. And keep an eye out for shorelines where the green grass meets the rocky beach. This is a favorite spot for bears. Don't just be a passenger, be a wildlife scout. Moments like that are why Alaska cruises are so special. But make sure you actually get to see these special moments. You have to plan it right from the start, which brings me to tip number 4. Your itinerary is more important than your ship. With a Caribbean cruise, people often pick the ship for its bells and whistles, the water slides, the go-karts, the rock climbing walls. In Alaska, that's a totally backward approach. Why? Because in Alaska, the destination's the star, not the ship. So here's the most critical piece of planning advice. Choose your itinerary first, then find a ship that sails it. Specifically, you need to decide if you want to see Glacier Bay National Park. Only a handful of cruise lines have the permits to enter this protected area, which is part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. As of 2026, the lines with permits include Princess, Holland America, Norwegian, and a few smaller cruise lines like Viking, Seabourn, and Cunard. If seeing the magnificent tidewater glaciers of Glacier Bay is your priority, you have to choose a cruise on one of those lines with a Glacier Bay itinerary. Other cruises visit incredible glaciers like Hubbard Glacier or Tracy Arm Fjord, but they are not the same experience. The glaciers you see will be the memory that lasts a lifetime. And speaking of how you see those glaciers, let's talk about where you're going to sleep next. Many will tell you that a balcony is an absolute must to enjoy Alaska. They'll show you those dreamy shots of people sipping coffee while a whale breaches right next to their room. And look, while that can happen, it's not the whole story. Here's the truth. While a balcony is an amazing luxury, it's not a necessity. For a lot of people, it's a waste of money. A balcony can add thousands to your fare. Money you could be spending on a once-in-a-lifetime helicopter tour or multiple excursions like the White Pass train excursion in Skagway. An ocean view cabin is a fantastic compromise. You still get the gorgeous natural light and a massive window framing those epic landscapes, but for a fraction of the price. After cruising to Alaska, I can tell you the public observation decks, especially those wraparound exterior decks, and the forward-facing lounges often have way better 180-degree views than a private balcony. Plus, you can move from port to starboard when wildlife is spotted, something you can't do when you're stuck on one side of the ship. The real secret isn't that you need a balcony, it's that you need to know where the best public viewing spots are on your ship and actually use them. Number 6, don't fly in the day of your cruise. Whether you're sailing a one-way Alaska cruise, such as Whittier to Vancouver, or a round trip out of Seattle or Vancouver, there's something you should absolutely never do, flying in the day of your cruise. Seriously, don't do it. Flights to Anchorage, Seattle, and Vancouver can often get delayed due to a variety of reasons. Connections can get missed, weather happens, and the cruise ship will absolutely leave without you. We always recommend arriving at least 1 day early, and 2 days is even better, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Not only does it protect you from the travel delays, but it also gives your body time to adjust to the time change, because Alaska time can mess with you a little bit, which brings me to something that surprised me even more than I expected. So now we're going to talk about the time change and how it really can mess you up. Most cruises start in Seattle, Vancouver, which are on Pacific time, or near Anchorage in Alaska time, which is an hour earlier even. So, if you're flying in from the eastern United States or Canada, it's quite a shock to your system. But it's not just the clock that gets you, it's the daylight. During peak summer, the sun can rise well before 4 a.m. and not set until long after 10 p.m. And the daylight, it's wild. Your body's internal clock just goes haywire. You'll feel tired at 7 p.m., but the sun will still be high in the sky. You'll wake up at 5 a.m. feeling like it's mid-morning. But the secret to surviving this is to force yourself into a schedule. Also, bring a sleep mask to block out that early morning light. Don't rely on the sun to tell you when it's bedtime. Stick to a routine and don't be shocked if you feel a little off for the first few days. We flew into Anchorage in early August, and even though the sunset was around 10:30, it was still pretty light out until around 1 in the morning, and around 3 a.m. it was already coming back up. It takes a couple of days to adjust, but once you do it, it actually becomes one of the coolest parts of the trip because it means you could still be out on the deck at 9:30 at night watching the mountains go by, and sometimes wildlife too. All right, now we're going to talk about why you shouldn't skip the onboard naturalist and park ranger presentations. On most Alaska cruises, there'll be an onboard naturalist or a team of national park rangers who come aboard for Glacier Bay. They give talks in the ship's theater, often during the day when people are busy doing other things. Now, most passengers will skip this. However, this is a huge mistake. These presentations are one of the most valuable, underused resources on the entire ship. They're not boring lectures. They're fascinating talks by experts who live and breathe Alaska. They'll tell you exactly what wildlife to look for, how to identify different whales, the history of the glaciers you're about to see, and the stories of the region's indigenous cultures. Attending these talks will enrich your whole experience, turning you from a passive tourist into an informed observer. You will see and appreciate so much more after an hour with the onboard experts, because these experts will inspire you to spend hours out on the open decks looking for wildlife and ice. You're going to be outside a lot, which brings us to one of the biggest packing mistakes people make. Here's the myth. You need heavy, bulky winter clothes because Alaska's freezing. The truth of the matter, the weather is actually pretty mild, especially in July and August. Most summer days are in the 50s or even 60s. Now, the biggest challenge in Alaska isn't the extreme cold. It's the rapidly changing temperatures and the fact that Southeast Alaska is basically a temperate rainforest. You might freeze on your balcony during a chilly glacier morning, but be perfectly comfortable in a t-shirt during an afternoon in port, and then get hit with a downpour an hour later. The solution isn't one giant Arctic-style parka. It's a smart three-part layering system. First is the base layer. This is what sits against your skin. It must be moisture wicking. Do not wear cotton. Cotton holds on to sweat and will make you cold the second you stop moving. Think synthetic t-shirts or wool. The mid-layer, this is your insulation. A fleece jacket, a puffy vest, or a warm hoodie is perfect for trapping your body heat. The outer layer, this is your shield. It must be waterproof, not water resistant, but actually waterproof. A quality rain jacket with a hood is non-negotiable. With this system, you can adapt to anything. But if I could give you one critical clothing tip, it's this. Be very careful with jeans. Ketchikan is one of the rainiest places in North America, and if you get caught in a frequent drizzle, jeans will soak up the water and hold on to it. Instead, grab some lightweight, packable rain pants or hiking pants. We found some great ones on Amazon that have a ton of pockets, weigh almost nothing, and are a total game changer, and we'll have those listed down below in the description. Finally, let's talk about that packing hack I teased about earlier. We thought we had the perfect trick. We decided to take a pair of regular shoes and just aggressively coat them with waterproofing spray to save some money. And honestly, it did very well keeping our feet dry on our hikes, right up until the last day when it was absolutely pouring rain. The spray just gave up and our feet were completely soaked. Take it from us, buy actual waterproof shoes or boots, and it is a very smart idea to also bring a second pair of shoes of some kind, just in case the first pair gets soaked. Now, if you're planning an Alaska cruise, hit that subscribe button right now, because we've got full ship tours, port guides, and more tips that will save you time, money, and a lot of stress. Which brings me to something else you should know about. You don't need excursions in every port. Our Alaska excursions can be painfully expensive. We're talking $300, even up to $600 if you want to do one of those insane helicopter glacier landings. But here's a massive tip. You do not need an official excursion in every single port. In Ketchikan, you can easily explore on your own. You can walk to the historic Creek Street, check out the totem parks, hit the lumberjack show, or just wander into a local bar or a seafood restaurant for that matter. All are within easy walking distance of the port. Then you have Skagway. Now, if you ask me what was the number one ultimate thing to do in Skagway, we would highly suggest the White Pass train excursion. It's an almost 3-hour ride, costing around about $150 a person, and it takes you right up to the summit of White Pass and briefly into British Columbia and then back. It's a bucket list excursion that won't entirely break the bank and was without a question one of the highlights of our trip. Pro tip, sit in the back. The view off the back of the train is incredible. But If you want to do Skagway on the cheap, you can wander the historic Gold Rush town and visit the Klondike Museum for free. You can grab lunch or a drink at the famous Red Onion Saloon and then take their quickie brothel tour, which is only about $20 a person and is super entertaining and gives you a glimpse into the lives of these brave, pioneering women. You can also jump on the Smart Shuttle downtown for just $10 round trip and take it to the famous Gold Rush Cemetery and do the short walk to Reed Falls. We absolutely loved this. And if you want a real treat while you're walking around town, grab some fresh fry bread at the Klondike Doughboy. It's really good. Juneau's another port where you have options. It's home to one of the most famous sites in Alaska, the Mendenhall Glacier. If you take a shuttle to Mendenhall, make sure you take the trail to Nugget Falls. The trail is flat, easy, and takes about 20 minutes or so for a walk. It's totally worth it because when you reach the end, this massive waterfall feels like it's dropping straight out of the sky right next to you. Standing next to it makes you somehow realize how powerful nature really is. The videos on YouTube just never do it justice. You have to feel the mist coming off of it in person. But speaking of excursions, there's one thing many people don't realize, and that's that excursions do tend to sell out fast. Now, if you do decide to book those big bucket list excursions, like the whale watching, the dog sledding, or a helicopter glacier landing, do not wait until the last minute. Unlike the Caribbean, where you can just often get off and wander off the ship and figure it out, Alaskan excursions often sell out months before the cruise even sets sail. If there's an experience you absolutely have your heart set on, do yourself a favor and book it the exact second your cruise planner opens up online. But here's a twist. Even if you book it a year in advance and pay it in full, you still might not get to do it. Here's the hard truth about Alaska. It's wild, unpredictable place, and the weather simply does whatever it wants. Plans change rapidly. Visibility disappears, the fog rolls in, and suddenly all the helicopter tours and float planes are grounded for the day. A mudslide might even take out the train tracks. It happens all the time. If you have your heart set on one single experience, you're setting yourself up for a massive disappointment. The secret to the perfect Alaska cruise is flexibility. Before you even arrive in a port, you need a plan A, a plan B, and even a plan C. If your Juneau helicopter tour gets canceled due to the fog, your plan B is grabbing a bus to Mendenhall Glacier. If your Skagway train excursion falls through because of a mudslide on the tracks, you already know you can explore the historic town, hit the Red Onion Saloon, and take the Smart Shuttle to Reed Falls. And if your Ketchikan boat tour gets canceled, plan C might be knowing exactly where the best local brewery is so you can wait out the rain. You can't control the weather, but you can't control your attitude and your backup plan. And honestly, sometimes the backup plan ends up becoming your best part of the entire trip. And lastly, the ultimate surprise. It's not a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Most people book an Alaska trip thinking it's a once-in-a-lifetime bucket list destination. You go, you check it off the list, and you're done. But after your first cruise, something strange happens. You get home, you unpack, and almost immediately you start thinking, what would it be like to go in May instead of August? What about September? What if I did a different itinerary next time and saw Hubbard Glacier instead of Glacier Bay? Before you know it, you're sitting right back at your laptop planning your second Alaska cruise. And it happens to almost everyone who sails there. And honestly, it will probably happen to you too. An Alaska cruise is the adventure of a lifetime. Towering glaciers, wildlife everywhere, and scenery that honestly feels unreal. Knowing these tips before you go will make your trip so much smoother and less stressful. Drop us a comment down below and let us know what you are most excited to see, or if you've already cruised to Alaska, what surprised you the most? We'd love hearing from you. Finally, to make sure your vacation is absolutely perfect, click on the screen right here to watch our entire Alaska cruise playlist, packed with more tips, ship tours, and port guides. Until next time, thanks for watching and happy cruising.